Hi, David. My name is Mick Bell. I'm presenting this on behalf of the Tech A453 with UAA as far as the Farm Business Plan project. Myself, Tony, and Luke will all be presenting at points of this presentation. And we're really excited for you to follow along and see this as well as the deliverable that we presented. It's been quite a fun experience to work on. Moving right into the agenda, today we're going to talk about a little bit about what the scope of this project was, what this business plan actually consists of. Tony's going to take you through business structure, compliance, feasibility. Luke's going to move through funding, grants, and strategy. I'm going to hop back on and go through branding, names, logos, and any closing thoughts and recommendations. Kind of moving into our overview, the first thing we're going to talk about is project scope. And the scope consists of what you asked for. And that was 3 buckets of questions or requirements that needed to be answered. One, that we give you a entity structure and we evaluate it and check its feasibility and compliance of that structure here in Alaska, as well as any federal requirements. Identify a realistic funding strategy, ideally at least $300,000 of grants only, no loans or debt. You also asked for us to develop 3 to 5 naming options and present a branding opinion and positioning for the farm that's fully researched and vetted. And all of these need to come together into a meaningful recommendation as a business plan. And that's what brings us here today. How did we tackle this? What was our approach? First, we started by researching, a lot of researching. So state and federal databases, any registrations, industry sources, large academic writings or papers on specific strategies for farms. And then we took that work and we divided it by our skill sets and availability. We wanted to make it fit the best for you. But we didn't want to work just purely in silos because all of these sections work together. And we're actually going to see that on the next slide. And this slide's going to point us to the structure is your first major decision. It's going to kind of drive everything from point 1. And that picks your funding eligibility. It was the biggest, as we did our research, it was the biggest determiner of that. After that, your funding is going to set your growth pace and set how well you are able to accomplish your mission, generate your products. And then the branding kind of works as a force multiplier on that. It's going to show everyone how your farm is understood. It's going to help them understand what you're getting accomplished through the other 2. Ultimately, though, all 3 of these need to meet your expectations. And like we said, structure is the biggest component, the biggest decision, immediate one. So we're actually going to hand it off to Tony, and I'm going to let him lead you through that section.
My name is Tony Chenoweth. I'll be picking up from where Mick left off, and I'll be walking us through our entity structural and regulatory compliance. And we're just going to kind of hit on a few key points and talk about them and elaborate what they mean to us and why we need them. And we'll start with our entity recommendations for the nonprofit, our formation steps, our core compliance area, and our risk and complexity. And that's pretty much it. It's not too much. It's got some good stuff in there. So first and foremost, we are recommending that Farms takes on the nonprofit, structure. It works out for us in a lot of ways. Really, a huge one is going to be our grant funding, right? It opens a lot of doors for us to access these government grants and to be able to utilize these available funds because we don't have a lot of donors. This isn't some kind of huge corporation that's paying for this. So we do need the funding. It's a big thing. So that's first and foremost. the funding plays a huge part in the nonprofit. Our goals and values. Our goals and values. This is, you know, it plays right into what we want. We want something that's not corporation run. We want, a organic, a nonprofit, and all these things. And following the structure, we can do that. And kind of like a farm for the people, and it'll pan out just right. And then for initiatives for education, one that kind of ties back into the grant funding. A few of the grants are education initiative based, so that'll help with that a lot. It's also being able to have the college come out and do what they do and work on the farm and do research and stuff. It's great. It's great for the community. It's great for the education aspects. So I think that'll be a good thing. And it also creates an asset for us, right? So just because it's a nonprofit doesn't mean that you don't reap any benefits from it, because it's not true at all, right? So as a nonprofit, instead of us putting it to the pockets of some dude, we're putting it back into the farm. So it'll come back, twofold to us. We'll invest back into the farm, and then whoever takes over next, they'll be able to reap the benefits of that. So, all right. So our next one's getting the ball rolling. All right. So first thing we need is going to be our business registration. All right. So we can go ahead and register with the state of Alaska. It's not much. It's like $50 a year or something for business registration. It's very minuscule. It's very small. And it's an easy process. We need our EIN, which is our employee identification number. This is kind of like our social security number for our business, and we have to have one. And we'll apply through the IRS. Also, pretty straightforward. It's not hard to get. It's not like something they're going to hang us up on. And then a big thing for us too also is being nonprofit. We're eligible for these tax exemptions, right? So these will be big for us, and we can apply for the 501c, which is the tax exemption. It's also filed through with the IRS. All right. So our core compliance. All right. Our core compliance is our USDA organic certifications. Right. So that's a big thing. That's a 3-year time period, and it opens a lot of doors for us also. But it's a 3-year time stretch where we need to be compliant with not using pesticides and pesticides, certain fertilizers and things. It needs to be organic, and we need to keep logs of that and have a track record. All right. So meeting the organic certification also plays into the next two, which is going to be our Food Safety Modernization Act, right? And our state and local zoning laws. But the Food Safety Modernization Act, right? We can this will kind of make us like retail ready, right? Just being compliant with organic certifications and keeping our logs. In Alaska, we don't really have to do this, but like it's for some of these smaller farms. But we should. We recommend that we do, because if we do, then we will we'll be able to sell to like certain like schools and hospitals, places that require these organic standards. So it's good that we do maintain that. And then the state and local zoning laws, very minimum. There's really nothing that's pertaining to us that's going to hold us up. But we're obviously going to go through them and check them. All right. And for our risk, our risk assessments, it's pretty low. We don't have any really like high risk things, other than if we don't receive, a necessary grant. That would be pretty big. But our business registration and licensing should be smooth sailing, easy to get. EIN, tax exemptions, it's just paperwork and a waiting game. And then our medium risk things are going to be our organic certifications and our food safety compliance, and just making sure that we are compliant and then we are meeting all the requirements and that we're not skipping steps and logging everything. So that's really all I got. And I hope it was useful. I hope it was helpful. And I will pass it back. Y'all have a good day.
Hello, my name is Luke Barnes. I'm going to be going over the funding strategy for our business plan here. So at the core of the strategy, you need to be applying for as many grants as possible. There are some individual grants that we've recommended to you that could potentially supply you with all of the funding in one grant. but it's unlikely or unreasonable to expect or to plan on just getting that grant and moving on. You need to apply for as many as you can from a variety of sources. Like we've listed federal, state, and foundation grants within there. While you didn't specifically request foundation grants, they do have some unique benefits, as in they typically have less overhead, more lenient requirements generally, and faster processing times. You're not waiting on the government to process things. We all know the government's very slow. So foundation grants, because they're private, generally have those three benefits among others as well. It's more streamlined applications and such. But diversifying your grant portfolio can very much help your business get a more consistent funding. Our funding strategy is based on the funds available. So when you look in there, it's going to have a table that's ordered. So that order of priority is based on a blend of the funds available, the eligibility requirements, so whether or not your business is going to work with that, or how likely it is, and the availability of the funding. So some of them may not open for another 6 months or potentially next year, or it may be unknown if they'll open again. So the grants that are currently open and known to open will be higher up, as well as the ones that provide the most funding. So in reality, you're not going to be able to apply for all of the grants on the list. You're going to have to pick a specific count of probably 3 to 5 that will work together, because your entity structure, whether nonprofit or for-profit, we obviously recommend nonprofit for available funding, but the business maturity as well, whether you're an upstart, but maybe 2 years down the road, you maybe will have different ones. And then overhead conflicts. So some of them may require that you don't pair them with certain other grants. So you'll have to pick which grants or selection of grants are going to work best for you. And then you need to prioritize the highest funding that aligns the most with your business's goals in the future. So some priority options that we've listed out for you here, just as an overview, we've got the Agricultural and Food Research Initiative, which gives you up to $100,000 on the nonprofit side. Organic Agricultural Research and Extension Initiative, up to $100,000. Farmers Advocating for Organic Rural Cooperative Development. And the reason rural cooperative development isn't specifically higher, because it's up to $100,000 or $500,000, is it's currently unavailable, and it's uncertain whether it will open, but it is likely it'll open again. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. It's one I would keep an eye on. And then on the for-profit side, you've got Value Added Producer, Healthy Food Financing Initiative, and Beginning Farmers and Ranchers Program. So there are requirements for each of these, again, just to go into a little bit on how they may conflict with each other. So agricultural and food research requires a 1-to-1 match on equipment. So every dollar from the grant you spend on equipment, you're going to have to contribute a dollar of your own. So that may make it a little bit less applicable for an upstart business cost or equipment costs. Rural cooperative development, you're not allowed to make equipment purchases at all. So it may be one that you want to focus on a little bit later in your business maturity anyway. Farmers Advocating for organic, the overhead costs can't exceed 5% of the amount requested. So you need to pay attention to that when applying for that one with your budgeting. Value Added Producer Grant, they offer it in working capital or planning grants. Planning grants would cover feasibility studies and stuff like that. Working capital would cover processing, packaging, advertising, salaries, and working capital will provide more funds, but it's generally for a more mature business. So planning is going to be the most applicable there. And then Healthy Food Financing Initiative, you can apply for as a nonprofit, and that one does fund structures, machinery, equipment, so you could get greenhouses, your upstart stuff like that. So that one's also one to pay attention to, even on the nonprofit side. So in reality, the funding is going to look a little bit different than what you might expect. So in a perfect world, if you were able to successfully apply for all of the grants on the list, you could get $1.4 million, but that's just not possible in reality. Average grant success rate for applicants is around 30%. And that's just among the ones that you're eligible for, with the conflicts and such like that, and your business entity deciding which ones you can even apply for. You're probably going to come down to a very good end estimate, like a high end estimate of $300,000 to $400,000. But even that's a high end estimate. So generally I would plan for less than that. So that funding is not going to be instantaneous. So you need to have cash on hand while it's trickling in. So planning for a lower than $300,000 initial funding, and that slow trickle in of funding, because they all open up months apart, and then the application approval process is going to be different for every single one. It's going to take a lot of time difference between them. So bridging loans are an option while you don't want debt. Bridging loans are an option to help during this time in order to get rid of some of that stress. But cash on hand is the best thing you can do to make sure that this is going to go a little bit more streamlined in the beginning process. For the timing of your applications and your application strategy, you need to put a lot of effort in your applications. It's going to make a huge difference in your success rate. So you need to focus on the available grants first, because some of them close within a couple months. So definitely make sure that you're focusing on the ones that are closing the soonest, and pay attention to those ones that are not open now. Start thinking about your applications or working on them directly, because you're going to need a lot of time to fill these applications. You need to build very, very robust applications for all of these grants, even the low budget ones, because you need to build a very, very thorough budget. The quality of the budget and the detail you present is going to make a huge difference in your success rate, because the reviewers of your application, they want to see that you know how you're going to spend their money, that you have it set up. So plan into the future. Make sure you spend a ton of time building a very thorough budget, and it's going to be different for every application. They're all going to want to see different stuff, because some of them may have specific end goals that they want out of you. So focus a lot of time on your application. Give yourself way more time than you think you need. Don't plan to hammer out your applications in just a weekend or a week. So make sure you know what's up with your applications. On the NEFA website, they have overviews of all of the processes. So check that out. Make sure you know what you're doing. So focus on the open ones. And while you're doing that, pay attention to them, and those other ones are going to open up, and focus on your applications there.
Welcome back. I hope you had a very enlightening journey through both entity structure and through funding. And now we're going to kind of take those two concepts and work them into our understanding of branding. So hopping right into it, we're going to discuss this quote. And this quote is very meaningful. It's: a brand is a promise, and a good brand is a promise kept. This comes from the former CEO of Coca-Cola. And this is going to be the whole idea behind this branding section as I talk to you. If you can't live up to the name, it's probably not the right name for you. It's not the right approach for you. And I want you to keep that in mind as we move through these options. Now, as we move into branding direction, it's more than just a name or a logo. You want to think long-term. You want to think where you're going to be in 5 to 10 years. You want it to be able to grow with you, that fits your actual practices. It needs to tell your story. Now, coming straight out of some of that research that we did on naming specifically, there was a lot of data that shows that it needs to be easy to say. They only stick if they're easy to say. If people can't remember it, they're not going to spread it around. They're not going to say it casually in conversations. Many farms try to explain way too much in the name. They try to carry too much weight, try to accomplish everything. That's not necessary. You just need to find the one that's a good fit for you. The name needs, most importantly, to support what you do, that shows how you run, how you produce, what you're about, your mission, and your story. Great news. 100% of every name that we suggest, both in deliverables and here in the slides, is available. We've checked federal trademarks, the Alaska Business Registration, social media, and we're excited that we don't want you to have any surprises. So we're excited for these names, and without further ado, I'm going to take you into the first one. The first one, as you know, this was the name, a tentative name that you started with, Wild Farm. We did find a very interesting variant off of that, the Wild's Natural Farm. With the natural farm being a part that you can eliminate from any casual conversation. So you just be the Wilds, and the natural farm is in your logos, in your branding, and your business entity may even be just the wilds. The natural farm allows you to kind of market and tell your mission without taking away that kind of ease or flexibility. Both of these, though, are distinct, they're memorable, and they stand out. Overall, we're probably thinking these are still your best option. You hit on a very unique variant of the word, and it's highly underused in almost every category here in Alaska or even in federal trademarks. The Meeting Place Farm is a unique name that we came up based on the story and based on the fact that your farm is located at Point Mac. Point Mac is actually as stated in the deliverable, is a unique place where two of the Alaskan native peoples would come down and trade huna almost nearly specifically at the locations your farm will be at. And that tells a very important story that goes long before this farm existed and is carrying a tradition. So you got a strong local story. It's community focused. It's going to help you build a sense of partnership with local Alaskan natives or people who are looking to understand that better. Now, it doesn't stand out or come off the tongue as distinctly. It's not quite as memorable, but the story trade-off we thought was strong enough to make this a high recommendation. We also thought that there should be a option that was shortlisted that was highly traditional. Susitna Valley Farm is a easy enough to say traditional name. It clearly identifies you as a farm. It gives you your location right off the bat. It's very easy to trust and very familiar, especially if you pair a logo with familiar elements like we have. Now, as you're kind of making this decision, I think you're going to pick up that a lot of these are a trade-off. You're going to trade off between recognition and clarity, whether you want to stand out or explain your mission, or do you want to get specific and that you're making natural products, or do you want some flexibility and not being kind of closed into a box? All of these, when you're making the decision on the name, it's your preference. It's what you're going to be most comfortable and what's going to support your mission, what your farm is actually producing. As far as our recommendation, we want to choose a name that supports the most growth, that doesn't limit you. We're going to recommend the Wild Farm. You stick with that. It is a strong, unique name that is not narrow in any way. And our only recommendation is if you do stick with that, add some messaging around sustainability and your restorative growth processes. So what are our closing thoughts as we kind of move out of branding and then taking into consideration our funding and our business entity? Well, we'll move into the harvest. Well, what did you get out of all this? We believe that you've got a solid working business plan that consists of a nonprofit structure recommendation, funding that should exceed your goal, timing, applications aside, and a name that truly matches your farm, that's going to make you feel connected to it every time you're out there producing crops or selling it to a customer. We hope you believe this plan is built like we do for real execution, that it's not going to be something that's theoretical. We hope that you find that it's going to stick with you over time. And we're actually going to give you some clear starting points here on the next slide of the next steps. What does that look like? First off, we recommend doing it in this order. You're going to want to finalize your structure, your entity structure. Maybe you go with nonprofit, maybe you go with for-profit. You're going to register your name, EIN, and business license for here in Alaska. Early on, we believe you should build out a detailed budget with a cash flow. This is going to help with many things, but most importantly with grant applications. Then we recommend picking the highest value grant applications, working on certifications kind of as those are in process and trickling in. And then kind of as your farm grows and you have funding, you can start building out the branding and materials around the name that you selected. There are some great resources in the deliverable about building out a business with a farm, and you'll find that in our annotated bibliography. I also recommend you take a couple moments to read some of those. You might find they add some further value that we were unable to touch on. And most importantly, thank you for this opportunity. I think all three of us have grown. We've enjoyed doing this project. And we hope you find a lot of value in this. Remember, it doesn't need to be perfect. And you just pick a solid starting point and go with it. Thank you so much, and have a great day.